Hey everyone, thanks for coming back and watching part 2 of this video. If you liked the first, I'm assuming that's why you're back here to get into some of the situations that happened in my older adult life. So yeah, let's get right into it. So this friendship started during my freshman orientation. It was college and I went to college with none of my friends. So we met each other and we were like, hey, you're cool, I'm cool. And we did the damn thing. We became friends, we exchanged numbers. She was super cool. Our birthdays were a day apart. So, you know, it was good vibes. It was all good vibes. And she was great. So we went to school together, like I said, and it was freshman year, so we wanted to do all the college things, including all the college parties, okay? And we had a great time together. We definitely had a great time together. Freshman year was my definitely lit year, definitely hot girl summer all year long. We went to all the parties together. We went to school about an hour and a half maybe away from where we both lived, and I had the car. So I would always drive us down whenever she wanted to come see her parents, whenever she wanted to see her boyfriend. Even if I wasn't going to see my parents or my boyfriend, I would drive her down. We would use my car to go to all the parties. Sometimes the parties were in Miami, sometimes the parties were in West Palm Beach, sometimes the party was wherever it was, we would use my car. And I started to notice a trend in her, and that trend was pretty much I paid for everything. I paid for us to get into the parties. I paid for the gas. I paid for the food. I paid for everything all the time. And I was also a broke college freshman. But it wasn't just like financially. When she was going through something emotionally or something with her boyfriend or with another friend, I was always there to lend an ear and be supportive. But she was never around when I needed a friend or I needed someone to listen to me and be supportive. So I definitely picked up on that pattern, but unfortunately not early enough to end the situation. I remember it was one day in particular, I was in the, I don't know if it was called the promenade or what it was, but it was like the area where it was like a bunch of different restaurants and stuff like that. And I was eating Quiznos. And I'm the type of person, like, if I'm eating a meal and you're hungry, I'm not gonna decide to split my meal if I have money. I like to eat, I order my meal because I wanna eat the whole meal. If you're hungry and I have the money, I'm going to buy you another meal, okay, for yourself. And she came in and I didn't even ask her if she was hungry. I just gave her money to go place an order and get herself a meal. That's the type of person that I was. I still am pretty much like that. Cause I'm a greedy girl. I don't like to share my food. And that relationship was always like that. It was always me giving, and just her receiving and never really there to give me anything. I remember the only time she ever paid for my gas, it wasn't really from her. I had her mom in my car. I don't remember why her mom was in my car, but her mom was in my car. I was bringing her somewhere and she offered me to pay to fill up my tank. And so of course I took it because, like I said, I was a struggling college student. But the way that relationship ended wasn't sour at all. At the end of freshman year, we went our separate ways, obviously, to get off campus, to go back home. And she decided that she wasn't coming back in the fall. And that kind of ended our relationship. And I think our relationship ended because I wasn't able or in close enough proximity to serve her anymore. And the relationship didn't serve her purpose anymore. So, like I said at the end of that video of part 1, I'm not saying that these women are trash people, but they definitely did trash things. And so I'm not gonna go and say she is a user, but she definitely used me in that situation. She definitely used me 100% of the time throughout that relationship. And the thing that I learned in that situation is just to be cognizant of your friendships, and not just your friendships, your relationships with family, your relationships with a significant other, because sometimes you need to love on people back. Not even sometimes, all the time, you should love on people back. it's usually one person that's doing more, at least at one time, doing more, putting in more effort, calling you more, checking in on you more. But I mean, I've been seeing things going around saying check on your strong friends. You know, check on all your friends at some point. When you're good, when you got your stuff together, when you're back with your man, or you got a new man, or whatever the case is, you back on your feet, you got a new job, you moved out your mama's house, whatever it is, like take that time, take that opportunity to go back and return the favor and call them and be there for them and offer them rides and offer them food and, you know, all those things. Don't be that person who's always like arms open, like ready to receive. It's supposed to work both ways. It's supposed to work both ways, and it might not be able to work both ways in every avenue. Like, if you don't have a job, you can't offer me anything financially, but that doesn't mean you can't offer me things mentally or emotionally. Do you get what I'm saying? Don't be the friend that only takes and only receives. Child, I put my hair up for this one. This next relationship that we're going to talk about, do you see that sigh of relief? This relationship ending was a weight off of my shoulders. Sigh of relief. Thank you, Lord. This friend of mine, let's go ahead and call her Michaela. Me and Michaela met 9th grade year, and we'd been friends deep into college, maybe even after college. I don't remember when our friendship exactly ended. But she's definitely one of those friends that whenever I think back on, I think big frenemy energy. She was very much so passive aggressive with me, very much so like always like snickering little things and making slight remarks. And I noticed it from 9th grade. I don't know if I went back, if I would change anything, because in that relationship, I met my great best friends that I have till today. But she wasn't a good friend to me. So even saying that is kind of hard because she wasn't a bad friend all the time. There are definitely times that I think about and I'm like, you were here for me here. You did something really good for me here, but unfortunately, whenever I think back to that, what I mainly remember is how bad you made me feel sometimes. She was definitely one of those people that never really congratulated you. It was always like, oh, you got a 98 on that test, I got 100. It was always like, everyone has had this experience, right? Like with someone who just can't be happy for you. You can't win. It's always like a competition, and friendship should not be competition, you know? The friendship was very nasty, and I remember in 11th grade actually, I wanted to stop being her friend. But one of my friends, like I said, she was the avenue to meeting all the great women that I have, or some of the great women that I have in my life now. Said to me, no, I can't stop being her friend because then our friendship group will unravel. So I decided to just suck it up and, you know, whatever. But she was a big frenemy to me and to someone else in the group, but that's not my story to tell. I remember there was a year that I took off from school because the previous year I was really sick and started missing a lot of classes and didn't do well, so I needed a year to get my stuff together. And I remember when our friend group got together, everyone was sharing about what they were going through in college and their different experiences. And at that particular time, I didn't really have anything to share because I wasn't in school. And me not being in school, I was kind of embarrassed about it because I didn't really know, at that point in time, I didn't know about, you know, withdrawing. I didn't know about, so me being sick really hurt my GPA, really hurt everything, and which was why I decided to be out of school for for that period of time to get myself together. And I didn't know how to communicate to anyone, school counselors, school advisors, even my parents, that what was going on and why I wasn't in school. So I didn't tell anyone that I wasn't in school. And I remember everyone was going on sharing their different, like, what's going on with this and this and that. And when it came to me, and I was like, yeah, school's fine, whatever. She just kind of said to me, did you drop out or something? And especially feeling what I was already feeling and how down I felt about the fact that my GPA was so low, even though it wasn't my fault, it really hurt me. It was a real gut punch. And of course, she didn't know that I wasn't in school. She didn't know that I was sick. She didn't know what was going on in my personal life, but that's not a thing that a friend says to a friend if they're concerned. It was another instance that I met a new guy and I was excited about him, and it was my first real boyfriend or whatever the case was. And when I brought him up to my friends, everybody's like happy and asking how do we meet and blah, blah, blah. And like, she just said the most rude thing. She was just like, oh, how are you with this guy? Did you give him your virginity? If you hear that, listen, friend of me, okay? Friend of me. Like, no friend talks to a real friend that way. It just doesn't happen. It's not right. It's not cool. Like, no one does that. And the way that relationship ended wasn't me going to her and saying, you know, this and this and this happened. I don't think till this day she knows how I felt. The relationship ended because I got tired of having to reach out to her, having to call out to her and see how she was doing, because we lived in very different cities after high school. I got tired of always being the one having to reach out, and one day I just stopped reaching out, and like I said, she never reached out, so we just kind of stopped talking. And I think that was been 4 years since we last talked. Probably more than that, because she doesn't know my husband. She doesn't even know his name. She doesn't know anything about him but what she sees on Instagram. This day, she talks to one of my other friends. We were all, like I said, all in the same group. And whenever she talks to her, she always brings me up like, oh yeah, I need to reach out. I need to know how she's doing. And she never does. She probably will never. But one thing that I definitely learned from that, I for sure learned how to spot a friend of me and to believe when people show you who they are. I know that's a very cliche saying now, but sometimes you want the good things to outweigh the bad, but sometimes they just don't add up. They don't measure up. And in this situation, the bad definitely outweighed the good. And you don't deserve that. You don't deserve anyone, you know, downing your accomplishments. You don't deserve to have anyone making you feel less than, anyone making you feel not smart enough, not good enough, not pretty enough, especially not another woman, especially not someone that you call your friend. Just absolutely not. Friendship was so exhausting in itself. When she stopped reaching out, I was just like, oh, thank God I don't have to put on this charade anymore. Because even talking to her and trying to find things to talk about was so exhausting. Like, my really, really, really good friends now don't live in the same area code as me, don't live anywhere near me. We see each other maybe once to twice a year. But when we get on the phone, it's like back in high school. Hey girl, what's going on? But easy, fluid, just good. It feels good. We all check in on each other. We all have a group. Like, no one feels like they're missing out. You know, they know about everything that's going on in my life, even when they're not here, even when I only see them once a year. But with her, it was always just so exhausting. And I'm glad I don't gotta deal with that no more. She don't gotta ever call me, child. She don't gotta ever call me. I'm okay.
This is how I feel. I do not hate you. I do hate your superior complex.
The last friendship that we're going to be talking about today is the most recent friendship that I've had that's ended, although it was maybe 4 to 5 years ago now. But let's get into this story. So Jenny and I were really, really good friends. Really, really, really good friends. We just clicked. We got each other. We understood one another. We were here. Like, we were really good friends. Something that I noticed about her, and I didn't really realize it and put it to words until after the relationship ended, but what should have been a red flag to me was she liked to gossip. And let's be real, everyone gossips. Everyone likes to spill the tea with their friends. But something that was different about her was she wouldn't just like tell me about, oh, you seen what Sally, da da da. It was like, if she's cool friends with Destiny leaves, and then she'll turn around to me, girl, let me tell you what Destiny said. And that's not cool, bro. That's not cool. That's not, if that's your friend, that's not cool. So, like I said, this relationship was the most recent, even though it was 4 years ago, but this one still bothers me a little bit till this day, to be quite honest, because of how good of a friend she was to me. Our friendship ended. It was one day we were at her home and she had some of her friends over as well. And I'd known her friends, me and her friends, we'd all hung out, but they weren't like, we weren't close. So things that she knew about me weren't things that I would share with them openly. But anyway, we were having a conversation and someone was opening up about something, and what was her name? Jenny. Jenny had decided to go and use me as an example to this girl who was going through this thing. And in the example, she shared something that I had shared with her that I did not want to be shared, that I was not prepared to share. And it was so uncomfortable because as she was sharing this thing about me to use as an example, and maybe this was just my mind, because you know sometimes you think people are looking at you away just because you feel the way, but they're not necessarily checking for you. But I could see their faces like twist up, you know, like the judge, I could feel the judgment, and I felt so uncomfortable. So I remember making up something that I had to go, whatever, and I left. And it was a couple days that went by that we didn't speak to one another. And then I remember it was one day after devotion, I decided to reach out to her and let her know that what she did bothered me. So I texted her and I let her know that, hey, the other day we were together and you said this and you shared it to these girls, and that made me uncomfortable. This was something that I shared with you in confidence, and it wasn't something that I wanted you to share, and it wasn't your place to share because it wasn't about you. And she was a little shocked. Because she didn't know she did anything wrong. Whatever. But yeah, she didn't know she did anything wrong. And a little backstory. So the reason why, because like I said, this is still a sour part a little bit for me. This should not have been the end of our relationship because of how much I thought our relationship was worth. This was definitely something that an apology could have fixed. But now, backstory. At this point, I was in a relationship and with my husband, and she'd also had a relationship with my husband before me and my husband knew each other. And in our relationship, she would make a lot of different comments and say, I don't want to get too much into it, but she would make a lot of different comments, and pretty much it just wasn't your place. It wasn't your place. Yeah, I know you know him too, but to me, I'm the type of girl, like, I don't care if you were his best friend, I'm his new best friend. The space that you thought you took up before me is long gone. I take up all the space now, okay? And it wasn't like they couldn't be friends or they couldn't have a relationship outside of me, but There's certain things you don't do, there's certain things you don't ask, there's certain things you don't need to know about. It's just no, okay, no. And she had crossed that line multiple times in our relationship. And I picked up on it, and my husband also picked up on it. So now, back to this situation. I told her that what she did bothered me, and she was like, okay, I'm sorry, whatever. She did apologize. But it wasn't like, it was kind of just like, I didn't know I did anything wrong. Not like, oh, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, I won't do that again. Kind of like, I didn't know I did anything wrong. Like, you know how people apologize, like, I'm sorry if you feel like, don't do that with me. That's not a genuine apology. But anyways, I responded to her saying, okay, thank you, but I just want some time to evaluate our friendship before we continue to move on. Because like I said, it was already multiple boundaries that had been crossed on multiple different occasions. So at this point, I just kind of felt like, you're doing too much. You're just doing too much.
I wanted to say that, I would have wrote it. I said what I said. Okay.
So it's okay for me to say, I need time to evaluate our friendship to decide if this is a friendship I want to continue to pursue. That was too much for her. She didn't know how to handle that. And she kind of went off on me. She went off on me. And I'm the type of person, like, I don't do that, so I shut down and I stopped reaching out. I stopped talking to her. And then there was another situation where a few days or weeks or maybe even months had passed, and she reached out to me again, and I continued to explain why I was hurt, and she blew up on me again, so the conversation never went well. And I think one of the things that progressed the ending of this relationship was the fact that we never had a face-to-face conversation after that day where the offense occurred. Everything else was always through text or on the phone, and there's a lot of space for things to get misconstrued or misunderstood through text and through phone, because you're not able to see somebody's body language. You're not able to really perceive somebody's tone appropriately. And like I said, she blew up on me again. And so finally I said, you know what? There's no harsh feelings between us. I will always respect you. You're always going to be somebody that I love. I'm always willing to think back on you with positive thoughts because you've been a really good friend to me, but our friendship can't continue. And that was pretty much the end of our friendship. Like I mentioned before, just because trash things happened in these relationships doesn't mean any of these women are trash people, especially the ones that I don't know now. I can't say that they're trash. I definitely haven't always been the best friend. I've definitely made mistakes in my friendships. So in all of this, I go to say, like, set your boundaries with your friendships. You know, like, you can't talk about my man or you can't interfere in our relationship, or you can't borrow from me and not pay me back, or you know, you can't spend the night at my house if whatever your boundaries are, set your boundaries, make them clear, and make sure the boundaries are upheld on both ends. You don't let go of your boundaries and they don't cross over your boundaries. Respect people's space. It's okay for relationships to end. It doesn't mean the relationship was bad. It doesn't mean the relationship was a waste of time. Things end, people change. I hope that you guys have great friendships, because I definitely have great friendships. Appreciate the people in your life. I definitely appreciate all of you that are in mine, because I know you guys are the one watching this video and liking this video, and you guys are the ones that subscribe. I appreciate all of you. I know you're laughing because you guys know exactly who I'm talking about and all these things, but I appreciate you guys so much. But yeah, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the tea and had a good laugh. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll definitely catch you in the next one, because there will be a next one.